بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أول الخلق والعدد، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الأئمة المعصومين المنتجبين، ولا سيما حجة الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح المؤمنين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. One of the surahs in the Quran by the name of Surah Luqman. Luqman, when we look up his name in the narrations of Ahlebait alayhim salam, we find that this man was someone who is Hakim. That's why he is known as Luqman al-Hakim, who was also offered the nubuwwah, but due to the high responsibility of being a Nabi or a prophet, in some narrations we find that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that Luqman decided to stay a Hakim. He did not want to take the responsibility of nubuwwah. But he was such a righteous person that Allah quoted his wisdom in the Quran under a surah with his name. One whole page of Surah Luqman, so the whole surah is about 4 pages. One whole page, Allah is just quoting the statements which Luqman would advise his son. So from this surah we understand how the relation of a father should be with his son, that's number one, and what kind of wisdom can I teach my child. No matter what age he is at, there's always room for improvement, there's always room for wisdom. Number one wisdom that the father advises his son, as Allah quotes him in the Quran, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. Allah says when Luqman speaks to his son as in advice. So Allah says he's speaking to him, number one, and then he tells him, he speaks about him as he's advising him. What does he tell him? Ya bunay la tushrik billah. Number one advice from a father to his son is what? Oh father, son, do not do shirk in Allah. Why? Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. He doesn't just tell him you shouldn't do this, he tells him the reason why you should not do this. Why? Because it is a big oppression on your own self. Likewise, you see, for example, Ibrahim alayhi salam with Ismail. Now, if you notice how these people, for example, the prophets of Allah or people who are close to Allah, their focus in this dunya has always been on the akhirah. Even if they're living very hardship life in this dunya, their focus is always on the akhirah. For example, and this is food for thought for us as well. I go to ziyarah, Imam Rabah, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali, whatever we go for ziyarah, Umrah, Hajj. Many people, when they go for ziyarah, they have their hajat, which is dunyawi hajat. For example, someone who is young, they're looking for a spouse. Oh Allah, I need a good spouse. Could you please help me with that? Or Imam, or Sayyidah Maqsooma, for example, or Sayyidah Fatima. Many youth, they come across this. Many people are looking for a job. I'm looking for raha. I want peace in my life. We've always focused on this dunya. Notice what Ibrahim alayhi salam speaks to Allah after he built the Kaaba. Now he's building the Kaaba. When he's finished building the Kaaba, the first dua he has in his mind, bearing in mind he's what? A Nabi, a Rasul, an Imam of his time, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, and he's a Khalil of Allah. The first dua he asks from Allah, Rabbi اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. Imagine a ma'soom, infallible, who would not even think of missing a prayer or not even praying on time. His first dua to Allah is, "Oh Allah, make me amongst those who establish prayers." And he doesn't just leave it to himself. He says, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, and from my lineage. رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ. Oh Allah, accept our dua. This is a dua of someone who is ulul azm, the top 5 prophets. So basically, after Ahlebait alayhi salam, you have Ibrahim as Allah's best creation. And yet his focus is what? Prayer. And not himself, his family as well. And from his family we have who? If you follow it up through the lineage, you'd find that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is from the lineage of Muhammad, from the lineage of Ibrahim. So is Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imam al-Hussein. So you would notice that how did Imam al-Hussein preserve Salah on the day of Ashura? It was in a battlefield. A person, one of his companions, comes to him and he says, it is prayer time. The Imam says to him, "Dhakarta Salah, may Allah raise you amongst people who established Salah and remembered him." In the middle of the battlefield, the Imam alayhi salam kept up the Salah, which is what? The dua of Ibrahim, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, and from my lineage, O Allah, make them or give them the tawfiq that they establish Salah as well. That was the focus of people who are so close to Allah. So let's bring it to ourselves now. When I, for example, go to Arba'in, when I go to the ziyaras of the Imams, when I go to Kaaba, how many of us, or actually even after Salah, when we raise our hands, do we have this in mind? That, oh Allah, make me amongst those who establish Salah? I might be thinking, I'm already praying now. So why should I ask Allah that, oh Allah, I want to pray. I've prayed for the past 20 years of my life. Surely I will continue. There is nothing called certainty. There's nothing certain. Until the end of life, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Imam Ma'soom, he would pray to Allah in one of his dua in Sahih al-Sajjadiyah, which is also an ayah in the Quran, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. Oh Allah, do not shake my heart or make me take the path of misguidance after you have guided me. And this is Imam. And Imam is teaching you and I, when you pray to Allah, what should you have in your mind? Yes, hajat al-dunya, they come as secondary, but what's your primary dua? Everything that will make you proximate to Allah. If you read the history, you'll find many people who are with Rasulullah, then they became against Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of the basic examples is Zubayr, who was the cousin of the Prophet. He fought alongside the Prophet. All his life, he was with Imam Ali alayhi salam when those 3 ruled. When Imam Ali ruled in the Battle of Jumma, he came against Imam Ali alayhi salam. So all his life, he was what? He was a good person. When the sword of Zubayr came to Imam Ali alayhi salam when he was killed, after he was killed in the Battle of Jamal, Imam Ali alayhi salam looked at the sword and he said, سَيْفٌ لَطَالَمَا ذَبَّ عَنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ. A sword that had always protected the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at the end of this man. So I cannot guarantee that by the end of my time, when I finish my life, that I will be on Sirat al-Mustaqim. So what do? I focus my dua after each prayer. Oh Allah, make me die on Sirat al-Mustaqim. Not to mention, if you read the narrations, you'll find that the attack of shaitan on the mu'min in his time of death is much stronger than it was in his lifetime. Until the very end, shaitan is trying. It will keep trying, that until the very end you may disbelieve or you may say something that will take you out of the faith. So the prayer after the prayers should be, oh Allah, keep me on Sirat al-Mustaqim until I meet you. This is a dua from Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. So these people, Ibrahim, Luqman, our Imams, their focus was always on that which pleases Allah and keeps them on the straight path. So number 1 advice, he tells him, لا تشرك بالله. Do not associate anyone with Allah. Why? Because it is a volume azim. Number 2, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Number 2, after shirk in Allah, the biggest sin is the disobedience of parents. This is something that the father, Luqman, is advising his son. Make sure you are good to your parents. Why? Then Allah reminds him, Allah reminds you and I, and Luqman reminds his son, that حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Your mother was carrying you in pain. It wasn't easy for your mother to carry you. So for that reason, I want you to be grateful to her. And then he says, أَنِشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ. Allah says, be grateful to me and to your parents. Not just to me. I want you to be grateful to your parents as well. Now, why your parents? For example, again, if we come to Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, he says, if anyone finds himself a Shia of us Ahlebait, then he should be grateful to his mother that she kept her purity. You know, you cannot be a Shia of Ahlebait or a follower unless you were born as a legitimate. And that credit goes due to the tahara of the mother, that she kept you. She kept herself tahir and she kept you on the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Even Allah says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي. If they come to a point where they tell you to disobey me. Now imagine your parents, God forbid, they come to a point where they tell you, you know, it's fine. You can disobey Allah every now and then, or you can just leave Allah's path. مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. Do not obey them in this case only. If they tell you, disobey Allah. But then, even that, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا. Even with what they tell you, what they ask you, I still want you to be kind to them. In this life, وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ. And follow the path. If your parents are taking you off the path of Allah, then you should follow the path of whom? The path of those who are proximate to me. إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ. After all, you are coming back to me. فَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. I shall remind you of what you have been up to. Then he carries on saying, Luqman to his son, Ya bunay, O son, إنها إن تكن مثقال حبة خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله. He says to him, no matter how small of an atom of something that you may have, even if it was inside a rock. You know, sometimes when you split a rock, you see atoms in it. Luqman is reminding his son, even that small atom, Allah will bring it on the day of judgment. أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله. So he's reminding him of what? The accountability is very precise. There's no game when it comes to accountability. Like in Surah Zalzala, Allah says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Small atom of goodness, small atom of badness or evil, it will be presented before you on the day of judgment. It will be presented before you. Are you ready for that kind of accountability? Luqman tells his child. Then again, now notice what Ibrahim alayhi salam says in Surah Nahl. Now in Surah Luqman, Luqman tells his son now, Ya bunay aqim as-salah. O son, establish prayers. Establish prayers. Luqman, Ibrahim, something that Imam Ali alayhi salam would advise Imam Hassan and Hussein. Not that the case, you know, Imam Hassan and Hussein, ma'adallah, they have to be reminded. But when he's talking to them, he is making his Shi'as listen to what they should pay attention to. As a father, how does he talk to his children? As a father, I should learn from Imam Ali alayhi salam. That this is how he raised Hassan and Hussein. This is how I can raise my children. Ya bunayya aqim as-salah. Pay attention to salah. Why is it again salah and salah? Surah Maryam, Allah mentions the turning point of a person's life. Turning point. فَخَلَفَ خَلْفٌ مِّن بَعْدِهِمْ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. Allah mentions few names of the prophets. After that, he says, فَخَلَفَ خَلْفٌ مِّن بَعْدِهِمْ. A new generation was born after them. What did they do? Number one, أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ. They had forgotten salah, and due to that, what happened to them? وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. They followed their desires. If you see that there is a problem in this generation now, for example, in the 21st century, then don't blame that people are going after their desires. No. Number one problem is people are not actually establishing salah. They're not taking it seriously. Many people look from our community, or even sometimes you look from your own family. Like I remember mentioning this once. This member of a family, he became, I think, at the age of 50 or 55, and he quoted an ayah from the Quran where Allah says, وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Worship your Lord until you have certainty, or until you meet certainty. He says, I am at a level where I have yaqeen. And for that reason, I'm not going to pray anymore. He stopped praying. But if you pay attention to the ayah, what does it say? حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Until certainty comes to you. What is certain in this life? There's one thing certain: death. Everything else is not certain. It could change. But death is certain. So Allah is telling the Prophet, and worship your Lord until death comes to you. This man misunderstood the tafsir of this ayah according to what his knowledge told him. At the age of 50, he left salah. Why? Because I've reached yaqeen now. But yet you see that Imam Ali alayhi salam, who says that even if Allah was to take the curtains away from my eyes, my yaqeen would not increase. He died in his prayers. So yaqeen of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and then yaqeen of someone like us, But it's the tawfiq of people. When you reach to a point where you leave salah, that's the point where shahawat comes into your life. The new generation, speaking of the new generation, how many actually you see kids, let's say teenagers, who pay attention to this? When there's salah, you see them outside, or they don't even approach salah. When salah finishes, you find everyone's coming in. They attend the majalis, which is good. They attend matab, which is good. They're doing something good. But the main act that we begin with and we finish with is salah. You find people are forgetful of that. Allah reminds us over 60 times in the Quran, salah, salah, salah. Ask yourself why? Why prayers again and again? Ibrahim to his children, Luqman to his children, Imam Ali alayhi salam to Imam Hassan and Hussein. Something that Imam Hussein did on the day of Ashura, yet you find people forgetful of that. And the result, shahawat. Shahawat. They follow their shahawat. And then he tells them, وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Enjoin the good and forbid the evil. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. And be patient on what befalls you. As generations pass by, this is something that is becoming very hard for people. How can I be patient? How can we? Everything is provided instantly now. You want something delivered, within 2-3 hours you can have it at the comfort of your sofa. So this generation is being raised, whatever I want will be there before me. If they were to be faced with difficulties and challenges and hardships, can you imagine how are they going to deal with it? One of the things, for example, this generation, when they get married, the divorce rates are very high now. Why? They can't take each other anymore because they have had it easy all their life. Whereas if you see, for example, from my side, my grandfather from Lebanon, he got married at the age of 15 and he had a child. Tell a teenager not to get married. They'll be thinking, oh, I have to get married when I'm 30 and maybe I will get married. Why? I don't think I'm responsible enough. It's not the time has changed. People are not raising their children the way they should be raised. There's no responsibility anymore. Wasbir, sabr. Who has sabr now? Who has sabr now? Patient, who has it? Many people have lost sabr. Let's say sabr is on many levels. One of the sabr that Imam Ali alayhi salam advises Shias is sabr on wajibat, sabr on muharramat. On wajibat, many wajibat people have forgotten. Ramadan comes, mashallah, everyone becomes, abid, zahid for 30 days. Ramadan finishes, that's it. There's no sabr on, for example, waking up for Salatul Fajr anymore. Salatul Layl is something, you're a muttaqi. If you read Salatul Layl nowadays, definitely Jannati, like they say, confirm Jannati. But Salatul Fajr now, that's the test. No sabr. No sabr at all. This is from the elder generation. What do you expect from this new generation? There is no sabr anymore. When it comes to haram, for example, just today as I was coming from the classroom, a 15 years old boy, he tells me, songs, why are they haram? I'm not convinced why they should be haram. I go weddings and my family, they play songs. I don't see why should it be haram. At the age of 15, he is not taught by his parents, who are Shias, that songs are haram. And they have to prove it to him logically, not just, oh, it's haram because Allah made it haram. No, Allah doesn't make something haram with no reason. Give them a reason from the Quran. Give them a reason from narrations of Ahlul-Bayt. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, for example, when someone asks him, Imam alayhi salam doesn't bring a narration out of Quran. He tells them, okay, what do you understand? Give me something logical. He says to him, imagine it is the day of judgment. Okay, it's the day of judgment. Allah brings the mizan, the scale. You have salihat and sayyiat. And you now have to be held accountable for listening to songs. Where do you think Allah will place the songs? A'mal al-salihah or a'mal al-sayyah? He says, a'mal al-sayyah. He said, there you go, you answered yourself. No need for Quran, no need for narrations. Logically, we all know, our conscience tells me, when I'm listening to the songs, it doesn't really make sense to me. And one of the many reasons why this generation is being misled or diverted from the path, because continuously the headphones and on their phones, on their laptops, songs, that's all they have. Allah, when He made it haram, for example, at the beginning of Surah Luqman, Allah does mention this. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ. It's all lies. All lies. If you try to live your life by what is being said, and especially now, God forbid, if someone is even watching it, it leads you to things that all it does is provokes your shahwa, nothing else. Haram shahwa. Someone, for example, who is at the age of 20, they know they cannot get married now. What are they going to do? They will fall into haram. This all leads one by one. This is something that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam also reminds us from the Quran. Allah says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Allah doesn't tell you in the Quran, do not follow shaitan. He says, do not follow the steps of shaitan. Shaitan is not going to come to a mu'min, become a kafir suddenly. No. Step by step, he's going to mislead people. How many people that you would have seen probably, let's say in the past 10 years, who would come to the masjid, now masjid is something of the past for them. Ask the child, ask the boy, why are you not coming? I find it boring. It's not that you find it boring. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, the reason why people stopped tasting ibadah is due to the indulgence of haram. For example, songs, one of them. My heart dies. Over years, imagine a child who is only 12. He has this access to YouTube. Okay, take this iPad, go to your room. We don't know what he's up to. Who is he talking to? What social media platform is he on? I as a father know nothing of this. By the age of 18, 20, I want to take him to the masjid. Let's go, it's Muharram. Why should I go? This is from our community, a place that I went to read on in Greater Manchester. This lady, she organizes majalis. Every Muharram, Ashra Awwal, Ashra Thani. She organizes majalis. She has only one boy who never attends a majlis. She is organizer of a majlis. She's doing it with the hope that one day may Allah guide him and bring him back because she's doing it. No. I sat down with her because of your lack of giving him time from a very young age. This is the result now. He's 26. Do you really think suddenly Allah is going to switch an on button? Let's go to the majalis? No. You should have been bringing him since the age of 5. In fact, when you're pregnant with him as a woman, as a mother, if the mother is really careful that this child should grow on the hidayah of Ahlebait, then from the moment she is pregnant, she should come to the majalis. And you will notice the difference of this child when he's 10, 15, 20, because he attended the majalis of Ahlebait from a very young age. And this is something that even the ulama, they advise the committees, for example, of the centers, wherever they are, they tell them, do not kick the children out of the centers in the majlis just because they are making noise. This is their fitrah, this is their nature, but they will grow up in an environment which is good for them. But if they are being kicked out, they're like, we're not wanted here. As they grow up, this will be the result of this boy. He is 26, his mother organizes majalis, he doesn't even attend one majlis. So this all tarbiyah comes from the beginning. When Luqman is saying it in the Quran, he said it about 3,000-4,000 years ago. Allah quoted it because it applies to every time and age. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Whatever befalls you, be patient. You have to have patience. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Then he tells them, why should you be patient? It is part of something that makes you face hardships. You can face hardships fine when you learn being patient. Which sometimes I would see as a parent, for example, if my child always demands something, I give it him. By the age of 15, 20, obviously his demands are going to change. When I'm not able to give him his demands, then what's he going to do? Because he has no patience from a very young age, I have no one to blame except for myself. There has to be, Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Fatima, they have a path. They have taught us how should you raise your child. One of the things that Ahlul-Bayt would do, for example, Imam Ali, Hassan and Hussein, they would attend the khutbah of Rasulullah. When Hassan and Hussein would return home, Sayyidah Fatima with Imam Ali, they would sit down with them and they would ask them, what did you learn from the lecture of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And they're imams, 5 years old and 4 years old. This is how old they were. They sat them down. Now, Imam Hassan and Hussein, do they really need this reminder? No. It is a reminder for us. How should you raise your children? Then he tells them, Luqman to his son, وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشِيكَ وَغْضُدْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشِيكَ. When you walk humbly. Walk humble. You're not going to, like Allah says in another ayah, إِنَّكَ لَن تَبْلِغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. By the walk that you walk of this arrogance, you're not going to reach the height of mountains. Keep yourself humble. Keep yourself simple. وَغْضُدْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. And when you talk, lower your voice. Why? إِنَّ أَنْكَرَ الْأَصْوَاتِ لَصَوْتُ الْحَمِيرِ. The worst of voices is the voice of donkey. When you talk sensibly. Talk with a lower tone. These, you can find them in Surah Luqman, one whole page. Allah quoted the statements of Luqman in the Quran, and as we know, Quran is something that will last until the Day of Judgment. So these piece of statements and advice which Allah has put in the Quran, it applies to every time, 2023, 3023, 4023, until the Day of Judgment. This will apply to every time and age. And Imam Ali alayhi salam also has written a letter. Imagine, Imam Ali just finished the Battle of Siffin, and he wrote a letter to whom? To Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. To Imam al-Hassan. As a father, how does he advise his son? He tells him, إِنِّي وَإِن لَمْ أَكُنْ عُمِّرْتْ عُمْرَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلِي. O Hassan, though I have not lived the age of people that have lived before me. Now, as you know, in the Quran, Allah mentions people who were before you, they were more powerful, they lived longer, and they were more wealthy. Imagine now we think we are 8 billion, people have never lived as many as this. Allah in the Quran says they were more than you. So how many more there were? How stronger were they? I think I'm very strong now because we have all this power. Allah says they were more powerful than you, and they were stronger than you. They had strength. So Imam Ali alayhi salam tells Imam al-Hassan, though I have not lived the age of those people, like the average age, even Salman was from this nation, he died at the age of 200, Salman al-Muhammadi. So from this nation, still died 200. People back then, I remember reading this, a child, someone who's 300 years old would be considered as a child in those nations. You have lived 300, you're still young. Nuh alayhi salam, 2,500 years. Fir'aun, 1,500 years. Like this is normal ages. If you go, I don't know if you've been to Habil's grave in Sham, the son of Adam, you'll see even the length, it's at least about 10 meters, if not longer. And they even tell you this is just as a grave on top, but their real height is much, much more than this. Thamud, this is an ayah in the Quran, they were so powerful and they were so tall that they would engrave their houses into the mountains. Imagine that you're so tall and strength, you have so much strength that you would engrave a house into a mountain with no cranes, with no the technology that we have now. The cranes will pick this up and the tractor will pick it. No, as human people, they will go and pick it up. That's how much strength they have. So Imam Ali alayhi salam tells Imam al-Hassan, I did not live the life of those people. فقد إني ولم أكن عمرت فقد نظرت في أعمالهم. Imam Ali is paying attention to the history now. But I had looked into their actions. Okay? وفكرت في أخبارهم. And I reflected on what they have done. وسرت في آثارهم. And I followed every step of their life. So what is Imam Ali? What does he want to show Imam al-Hasan? حتى عدت كأحدهم. Until I felt that I was one of them. Imagine how Imam Ali was thinking when he was reading the Quran. He lived the scene so much that he thought himself as one of the people of, let's say, Hud, the people of Ad, the people of Salih, and so on and so forth. فقد نظرت في أعمالهم بل كأني بما انتهى إلى أمورهم. Until I felt that whatever happened to them happened to me. That's how much he delved in history. Telling Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, until he tells him that the whole point of me telling you, O Hasan, again, it's not for Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, of course. It is a reminder for people like you and I. When we come and read this, the Imam tells him, ذو نية سليمة ونفس صافية. The whole point of someone who wants to succeed in life. Now this is Imam Ali from Adam until his time. He mentions two things. You want to be successful? ذو نية سليمة. Number one, your intention has to be sincere. Number one, ونفس صافية, and yourself has to be pure. These two lessons Imam Ali alayhi salam has learned, or he's teaching Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, from the people who were before us. You want to succeed? These two. In another narration, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, طوبى لمن أبصر عيوبه وأقلع عن ذنوبه. Tuba is a place, is a tree in heaven. Basically, paradise is for someone who, or Imam Ali, for the one who looks into his own shortcomings. This in itself is a challenge now. When it comes to other shortcomings, you'll see people, mashallah, the eyes open to see whatever shortcoming he has, they will pick it up and then they will share in the community. Imam Ali alayhi salam says paradise is for the one who looks his own shortcomings. Which one of us doesn't have a shortcoming? Except for a ma'soom? Everyone. Everyone has room for improvement. But when it comes to me looking in my own shortcomings, I try to perfect myself as much as I can. But Imam Ali alayhi salam says, look into your own shortcomings. Number one, and then he says, وَأَقْلَعَ عَنْ ذُنُوبِهِ. When he finds out his own shortcomings, only then will he give up sinning. Until I justify my actions, I will never give up sinning. For example, they ask people, why do you not wake up for Salatul Fajr? Oh, I don't really have time. I have to wake up for my work at 7, although now, mashallah, sunrise is at 7:30 anyway. So even if someone waking up for Salah or dropping their kids off, they can still pray. But let's say when it comes to 2, 3 a.m., we would have time to wake up the night. Half an hour, 1 hour before Salah, you'll fall asleep. Everyone faces the same. Why? Because they're not looking into their own shortcomings. My own shortcomings, I'm not waking up for Salatul Fajr. My own shortcomings, I don't pay attention to Salah times. My own shortcoming, many things. This is only in wajibat. If I come to the makruh and what people eat, from the Shias, I don't need to, expand and talk about the Muslims. Just from the Shias that we live around with, you'd find people justifying many things. For example, this is something very unfortunate now, from the young generation. For example, why do you talk to a na-mahram on the social media when you're married? Oh, my spouse doesn't give me my right. He doesn't give me time. He doesn't feel emotionally, I don't feel loved. They justify their action. There's no, okay, I need to see what my shortcoming is. Sit down and talk about it. No, we shouldn't communicate. He doesn't give me, or she doesn't give me time to communicate. That's what they have. This is the new generation. I'm telling you, beginning 20s until late 20s. Why? No communication. This is what it leads to. When there's when you do not look into your own shortcomings, The list can carry on and on and on, and you'll find justification for it. Everything can be justified. Any wrongdoing can be justified. But a mu'min puts a full stop to it. No, I have to sort the problem out. I have to see the root of the problem, and you'll see the root of the problem with many things: communication. Be it the father with his children, be it the spouses together, be it the community together. Many things will be sorted with what? Sitting down. Communication. No, there's communication, you'll find there's a problem with everything. Even Allah communicates with His prophets. That's the reason of what we have now between Allah and us is the divine leader. Why? Communication. You communicate with the divine leader, he communicates with Allah, and vice versa. Until I believe that I have shortcomings, I won't improve. This is something that even Urafa, when they teach you to tackle your own self, number one, they tell you, sit down with yourself, know what your shortcomings are. Yourself, one-to-one, which is called muhasaba. You know, Ahlebait alayhi salam, man lam yuhasib nafsahu kulla yawm falaysa minna. He who does not hold himself accountable every day is not from us. Before you sleep, rather than, on the phone, just swiping and swiping and swiping, put the phone down, think for 5 minutes. What have I done from the morning till the evening? Accountability. You will see that over time, you will reach something that you wouldn't have reached had it not been for accountability. Ahlul-Bayt alayhi salam would advise us of something which is not beneficial. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam mentioned it. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam mentioned it. Imam Ali alayhi salam mentioned it. All of the Imams, they've mentioned accountability. Why? So you can find those shortcomings and you can pay attention to that which matters. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.